Let's continue our study on Abraham, the father of faith. Let me just review from chapter 12, starting on verse 1. The Lord said to Abraham, "Go from your land, your relatives, and your father's house, to the land I will show you. I will make you into a great nation." So God did not just tell Abraham, "You'll be a big family." He said, "I'll make you into a great nation. I'll bless you. I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you. I will curse anyone who treats you with contempt, and all the peoples on earth will be blessed through you." Now, that is what you call as the Abrahamic blessing, okay? And the importance of having children. Now, right now, of course, we are living in the 21st century. When you say Philippines, you're talking about a nation in the Far East, Filipinos, named after King Philip of Spain, but actually, Philip has nothing to do with the Filipinos, okay? Because none of us are his children. Why am I saying that? Because in the beginning of nations, there were no nations. There were families. Okay? There were families. So when God says, when we read, "I will bless the nations of the earth," or "I'll make you into a great nation," you translate that word nation as family. Because when nations began, it all started with a family. So they begin to grow, they begin to increase in number. During the Nazi occupation in Europe, there was a family there. I forgot the last name. One is my professors actually, and they were anti-Nazis. So Hitler killed almost everybody. And our professor said to us that his parents decided to say, "We cannot be annihilated, otherwise our family will be gone." So they decided to escape Germany and come to the U.S. When they came to the U.S., there were only 4 brothers. And they met together and said, "We cannot allow the name of our family to be erased." So they said, "We will get married and we will work on having children." Right now, there is a city in Michigan. Almost everybody came from that family. That's how nations are built. They are built from families. So when God says, "I'll bless the nations of the earth through you," I'll bless the families of the earth through you. Now, that tells us the importance of raising godly children, or children who will love what your family is. Like, for example, one of the reasons why faith is no longer being perpetuated is because Christians are raising children who doesn't love Christianity, okay? Because they are, I don't know, for one reason, we have known some families here, their parents are very godly, and then their children grow up, lack of discipline, lack of corrections and teachings. So when they grow up, they end up hating their parents. And so they want to escape everything that their parents are all about. And worse sometimes is this, and this is happening in America right now. It's what you call as the reverse transfer of wealth. Because a lot of American families refuse to have children. Well, who's going to be heirs of what they possess? Nobody. And so they don't want the government to take, the government has been taking at least 50% of what we have by all kinds of taxes. So they say, well, we don't want the government to keep taking what we have. They have nothing to do with the creation of our wealth, they say. So they started adopting children. Now, this is a problem here. I have nothing against adoption. That is still biblical. Remember that Jesus was adopted by Joseph, because Joseph is not his real father, okay? So nothing wrong with that. But now they have found out that they have raised children who doesn't respect their families, especially those that they adopted from other countries. Remember that the left-handed picture from Diamondbacks, Vietnamese, and his dad is a black American GI, and so his mom brought him here to the U.S. and grew up here. he was practically an American by all means, you know. And he doesn't know Vietnamese language. His mom will tell him, "You're an American." But when he started going to high school, his classmates starts looking funny at him because he doesn't look like an American. He looks like a non-American. Now, I don't know what an American looks like because there's no such a thing as an American race. Being an American is an ideal, it's not a race, okay? So he doesn't look like an American. Well, he became a professional athlete, one of the best left-hand pitchers in the league. And it was a make it or break it game in the playoffs. And the main pitcher got injured. So he was asked to pitch in. And he lost the game. And when he lost the game, some people started heckling him and said, "You go back to Vietnam where you belong." And it shocked him. He said, "What?" He said, "I'm an American. My parents raised me as an American." He said, the fan says, "You go back to Vietnam where you belong." And started cursing him. And for the first time, he felt rejected in America. So he went home, asked his mom, "Mom, who am I?" And his mom said, "You're an American." And he said, "No. The fans are screaming at me saying, 'You go back to Vietnam. You're a Vietnamese.'" And so he had, for the first time, he went to Vietnam for a vacation. And he said this, "I landed in the airport. The moment I deplaned," he said, "for the first time in my life," he said, "for the first time, I felt like I belong." He said, "I look around, nobody has blue eyes. We have the same color of skin. And we look the same." And said, "I felt this is my family." So he introduced baseball to Vietnam. And guess what comes along with it? His wealth. Okay? So the wealth that his family, adult parents, have built to bless America is no longer blessing America. It's blessing Vietnam. That's why it's important that we raise children who loves their families. We raise children who loves the faith. Otherwise, we will lose the faith. That's why God says, "I want godly children." Now, God says, "Look from every place, every direction, that is yours." Now, you can imagine if Abraham did not raise a godly Isaac. Understand that at one point, well, for years, Abraham became so wealthy that he was feared by the nations around him. Remember, he was a nomad to begin with. The nation has not been possessed yet. Canaan has not been possessed yet. And so he was a nomad. And so the nations around him were very much aware that he was very wealthy. But they do not know he was powerful. Not yet. Just wealthy. Okay? And because he was very wealthy, they have no reason to not to take him for the money. But then he's getting old. And the Lord says, "I'll bless you." And you know, there comes a point when you're young, you want to make money, some people want to be popular. But listen, all young people grow old. Okay? And by the way, when you grow old, some of the desires that you have when you were young, they disappear. They just go away. I mean, I love sports. I love basketball. I just watch basketball now. You know, I could no longer jump. I do pick-up games with my kids, and they push me around now. Before I used to just push them around. Do I desire to play basketball? No, I don't want to get injured. I'm old, so you lose some of the desires. Okay? So at a certain point, when you get old, why are you still working? That's why people retire. And now this is the sad thing. They say, "I retire so I can enjoy my wealth." Well, what kind of statement is that? You will retire so you can enjoy your wealth. What about when you're making your wealth? Are you not enjoying them? Of course, you're already enjoying your wealth when you're making them. But then they say, "Well, I might as well retire because at a certain age, you work not because of you anymore." You know, me and my wife were set. Okay? We're good. We have no problem making money. We have no problem with livelihood. any job that my wife applies to, she gets accepted. We know how to make money. We're set. Why do we keep working? We have 5 kids, okay? And the most expensive is here in front. You know? we have 5 kids who eats a lot, okay? I mean, they eat a lot and they like good things. Now, I have sat beside dying people, okay? And this is one of the sad confessions that I've heard from parents dying. Pastor Jose, I do not know what will happen to my kids when I die. Now, can you imagine, you're a parent, you're dying, and you're asking yourself, what am I going to do? I'm dying. I remember when my father was shot, we were all young. The only person working during that time was my kuya. So I was taking care of him in the hospital. The doctor didn't give him that much chance. The doctor says, after a week or so, I can tell you whether your dad will survive. So he survived. He's got a strong will and got a very strong body. But I remember when he was already recovering. He was 1 month in the hospital. And he told me this. So say, I have to live. I have to survive. I have 2 reasons. I said, why, Tatay? Why do you need to survive? He said, number 1, all of you are young. And he said, you're almost in college, but you're graduating in high school. I have 3 other kids. He said, I have 4 other kids who have not even gotten to high school yet. He said, I have to live so that I can send them to school. Now, can you imagine? The man was shot, but because he doesn't have that much money, he said, I need to live so that my kids can go to school. And then he said, I have to kill the one who shot me, you know. But of course, the guy just got killed by the police officers. I mean, but look at this. If we were wealthy, he would not be concerned about our future anymore. But we were not, okay? So some of the dying lamentations that I've heard is, what will happen to my kids? Well, because you didn't raise your kids properly. Now, the Bible said this, a righteous person leaves an inheritance for his children's children. It didn't say for his children. For his children's children. That means grandchildren. You say, who among the parents leave inheritance to his grandchildren? Well, under normal circumstances, nobody does. Okay, unless you really don't trust your children. You leave the inheritance to your children. But because you raise your children properly, they are responsible. When they come of age, what do? They started working. They started making money for themselves. Therefore, they don't need you anymore. You know, it's embarrassing, for example, when you're already 40 years old and you're asking your dad for gasoline money. Right? You're not 40 years old, okay. It will be embarrassing. You have a 40, Elizabeth, you know, the one that my wife took care of. Every time her daughter calls or her grandson calls, she slams the phone. Who's calling? Oh, that's my daughter. She will pick up the phone and say, hello, I'm okay, I'm busy. Bam! And my wife says, why didn't you talk to your daughter? She's just asking for money. The girl was 50 years old. And every time she calls, Mom, my car broke down. I need $1,000 for repair. And so she doesn't like to pick up the phone when her daughter calls. Because she raised a very irresponsible daughter. You see? So she laments it. That's why it becomes important to parents to raise godly children. Now, if I die right now, I will not be at peace because I have who's this guy? James, who thinks he knows what he's doing, but he doesn't. And Joel, okay? They are both, but I'll tell you, Joseph is set, John is set, DJ is almost set. You know, and these are responsible kids. If I only have 3 kids, I can go to heaven right now. But not yet. I've got two expensive boys left. You know, I have James and Joel I have to take care of. But look, if you never raise your kids properly, say you become rich, who will perpetuate who will handle your wealth? It's a waste. Okay, it's a waste. One of the wealthiest family in America before were the Walgreens pharmacies. Billionaires. What happened to them? All his kids were raised wrong. They were drug addicts. Can you imagine to be a drug addict in your own pharmacies? They were really drug addicts. So he died. Guess what? The kids just end up selling the whole company. That is a very lucrative business. The kids should just be relaxing and drawing some money. Guess what happened? Drug addicts, sick people. So who is now taking advantage of the foundation that was laid by Walgreens? The new owners. You see? Because they failed to that's why you raise your children properly. Now, that's why when God was telling Abraham, hey Abraham, I'm going to bless you. He was around 80 years old, 85 years old during this time. I will bless you. I will make your name great. Now, if the Lord speaks to you and says, I'll bless you, I'll make your name great, you'll be extremely wealthy, you'll say, whoa, I can buy all the cars that I need. Abraham went sour. When God told him, I'll make you great, you'll be a blessing. And if I will paraphrase what Abraham told God, he says, what for? He's 85 years old. He said, what for? And this is what he said. I have no children. Then he said this. The one who stands to inherit all of this wealth, which is bigger than some nations around him. He said, the one who stands to inherit this is Eleazar, one of the slaves born in my house. Now, Abraham is the father of faith, but he said this. He was telling God, I could not have been working all these years so that I can give it to a slave. Now, modern day progressives who are lazy and doesn't want to work and just want to get money from others who say, well, that's good, give the money to me. But that's not how wealth is supposed to be transferred. Okay? That is not how wealth is supposed to be transferred. You are not supposed to be just giving away wealth. It should be given to those who deserve it. I mean, the Bible says, he who does not work must not eat. You have a sibling, you have a child who's already grown up, refused to work, don't feed that child. See what happened. But that's the simple truth in the scriptures. He who does not work must not eat. And so he said, Lord, I only have Eleazar. And God says, no, you will have a child, which was born 15 years later, when he was 100 years old. But because Abraham says, what's the use of working so hard and I have no heir? The godly line, listen to this, the godly line needs to be preserved. Do you know why America is still conservative on papers? America is still conservative on papers not because of Americans born here. America is still conservative on papers because of Mexican immigrants. Because Mexican immigrants are almost all Catholics. And Catholics are pro-life, they are anti-abortion, they are pro-marriage, they are monogamous, they are conservative. So the reason why America is still conservative is because of the Mexican immigrants. Because almost all of them are Catholics. And Catholics have conservative value. Okay? Now, not in every country on the earth. Remember that liberalism was born, or the modern liberal movement, Che Guevara was born in Latin America. The Pope that they have right now is also from Latin America. That's why he's got very liberal policies. But that is the reason why America is still conservative. Because Americans fail to produce kids. Because they have wealth and they say, we're going to enjoy it. Remember during the prosperous times of Bill Clinton? We have members who wanted to retire at the age of 40. Because they have money. Can you imagine? What are you going to do at the age of 40? They have found no reason. They have found no purpose. Okay? Part of the reason why me and my wife are still working hard is because we have kids. Why did we pay off this building? Because we have new generation coming up. I don't want to turn over this church with debts. That's why we're debt-free right now. Okay? Can you imagine? Can you imagine some parents, they will take loans from their houses 1, 2, 3, 4 times, and then they make a will. Everything goes to my child. And so the child took over when the parents died, and the child said, wow, I have a house. He looked at the papers, my goodness. He doesn't have a house. He inherited a debt. Yeah. Because the parents didn't prepare for that. So they look at the papers, I thought I own a house. They inherited debts. You are not supposed to pass debts to your children, parents. Are you listening? You're quiet now. You are not supposed to pass debts to your children. Stop borrowing money when you cannot pay them. Because then your children will be forced to pay something that they did not approve of. And so you did not give them a right start. Okay? That's why it's important also to preserve your name and your reputation. Because sometimes children suffer because of the reputation of their parents. There is a national hero in South Korea. I like his story. He's the best admiral in the history of the military. There is not even an American admiral that came close to Admiral Yi Sun-shin. Okay, the guy defeated around 2,000 Japanese ship with his around 300 ships. So the guy is a genius in military tactics. Well, his children died, and he's a national treasure. You go to Korea, you will find a big statue of Yi Sun-shin. Well, there's a problem that they have. The last heir that he has is gay. Okay? You know what gay means. It doesn't mean happy. His last heir is very unhappy. Okay? Why is he unhappy? He doesn't know if he's a man or a girl. Okay? If you don't know who you are, then you are so totally confused, and you will not be happy. Well, the guy got sick, and the guy died without an heir. How can you have an heir? How can you produce your gain? You know? So he doesn't have an heir. You know what Korea is doing right now, because they so want to preserve the name of Yi Sun-shin? They are looking for somebody from the farthest relative that they can adopt as an heir to the name Yi Sun-shin. But actually, there is none. So after a couple of centuries of being very famous, that name just died. No heir. Yeah, no heir. That's why the children of Abraham in the scriptures are those with faith, because it's not based on human genealogy. Okay. Now, after all of these exploits that Abraham did, he beat the 5 kings. Now, here's this encounter with a priestly pioneer. Abraham was a prophetic pioneer, and now a priestly pioneer he met, named Melchizedek. Genesis 14, verse 17. After Abraham returned from defeating Kedorlaomer and the kings who were with him, the king of Sodom went out to meet him in the Shaveh Valley, that is, the king's valley. Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought out bread and wine. He was a priest to God Most High. He blessed him. And, by the way, is it hot for you guys? Okay, I'm just asking. I'm feeling warm now. It's not hot. No, you turn on the AC, okay? It's feeling a little bit warm. I'm just being polite, asking you if it's warm, okay? You guys don't get the cue. Abraham is blessed by God Most High, creator of heaven and earth, and blessed be God Most High, who has handed over your enemies to you. And Abraham gave him a tenth of everything. Now, the meeting between Abraham and Melchizedek is pivotal, okay, in terms of expanding and confirming Abraham's relationship with God. This is after he rescued his nephew Lot from his captors from the east. Now, Lot, we studied him the other week. I mean, the guy is very ungrateful. You know, one of the worst people to be around you will be ungrateful people. Lot's dad, brother of Abraham, died in Haran. And so he's got no more family. So Abraham took him with him, and he was supposed to be an heir also. Because if he stayed with him, he will be a possible heir. But this guy decided to be ungrateful and fought Abraham and separated from him. Well, he got captured by the king of Sodom and other kings. And Lot was a very faithful uncle, so he rescued Lot. Now, after all of that, the king of Salem, or Jerusalem, Melchizedek, came. Some rabbis believe that Melchizedek is Shem, one of the sons of Noah coming from the flood. In this meeting, Melchizedek brought out the bread and the wine, elements of the covenant meal. Melchizedek blessed Abraham. Now, I told you this. Abraham was wealthier than some nations. You know, the most difficult people to bless are those who are well off. What are you gonna give this guy? You know, he has everything. If it's a poor guy that you are blessing, you don't even think about it. No, Paul puts it this way. Hebrews chapter 7, verse 4. Now consider how great this man was. That is referring to Melchizedek. Even Abraham, the patriarch, gave a tenth of the plunder to him. Verse 7. Without a doubt, the inferior is blessed by the superior. Now, this is a principle of blessing, okay? The principle of blessing is this. The greater always blesses the lesser. It's not the other way around. The greater always blesses the lesser. If you are hand to mouth, how can you bless others? That's why in the scriptures, as far as offering is concerned, it's what if you have leftover, if you have excess. If you have no excess, you don't give offering. In fact, the Bible says the offering is according to your will. Because if you have nothing, you can't give anything. Okay? So it was very difficult to bless Abraham. Unless someone, my spiritual father, it's hard for people to even pray for him. You know? But the guy pioneered churches in over 100 countries of the earth. I mean, he's a spiritual patriarch in America. The Swaggarts were saved through his family. You know, so the blesser, the greater always blesses the lesser. Abraham allowed Melchizedek to bless him. Now listen, you cannot bless anybody with what you don't have. Okay? You cannot bless anybody with what you don't have. You know what is very annoying sometimes is when you ask for volunteers. Hey, I need volunteers. And somebody says, oh, brother so-and-so is not busy. Why are you volunteering him? He is not yours. You know, parents, a lot of parents are guilty of this. We volunteer our children. Oh, the church needs some help. My child is available. Whoa, wait a minute. That's your child. Let your child make a decision. Okay? You cannot bless somebody with what you don't have. Or somebody raising funds. We need a building. And somebody raised the hand and says, oh, that guy is rich. Let him give. No, that's not your money. That's his money. Don't volunteer him. We were in Virginia Beach, and this was during my ordination there. and they were raising money for the one country in Africa. And the bishop said, we need $20,000. And somebody raised his hand in front of the church and says, if I have the money, I'll give the $20,000. And I remember Bishop Angemes look at him and say, honey, I don't need what you don't have. I need what you have, okay? Because a lot of people are very quick in making promises. If I get rich, I will give. Forget it. You don't have anything. You cannot bless others with what you don't have. Okay, that's why, for example, parents, if you pass on, say, houses to your children, but it's full of debts, you're not actually giving them a blessing. You're giving them a curse because it's full of debt. Okay, because it's not yours, it's the bank's. You cannot give what you do not have. Therefore, this is a basic mistake in our society. Okay? Like, for example, what is the problem with our legislators? They are legislating business laws when they don't even know how to start a business. How on earth can you come up with a law that affects business when you can't even be employed on your own? You need to know how to run a successful business before you can teach somebody. Okay? Now listen. My conversation with John the other day, or sharing on Friday night, if I am going to, if I'm starting my family right now, he asked me, are you going to send your children to CPS, Chicago Public Schools? And I told John, if I have no choice, yes. But if I have a choice, I won't send them to CPS. Because CPS is, I mean, the revisionist history that they are teaching right now, the immorality that they're teaching. Can you imagine in elementary now, they are putting condoms in the bathrooms? Elementary. And that is CPS, with our tax money. They don't have any morality. I mean, the progressive agenda is so dangerous, it's more dangerous than the communist agenda. They are breaking all barriers. There is absolutely no standard, no morality. So John asked me, are you going to send your kids to CPS? I said, no. So what are you going to do? I said, homeschooling. But I said, for that to be viable, there's going to be some voucher program so the parent who doesn't have to work can be paid by the government, because that's what CPS is for. But I said to John this, if you are planning to homeschool your children, you better know what you're talking about. I cannot homeschool my kids. I cannot. I was raised in the Philippines. I know part of American history. I don't really know American history. How can I teach them American history? How can I teach them? I mean, in high school, they are learning calculus. I took calculus in college. What do I know about calculus now? I know how to spell it. That's all. I cannot coach my children calculus. I can teach them other stuff, but I cannot teach my children the curriculum in the U.S. Steve Robbins, remember Steve Robbins? His two children are very good. They just got a scholarship from 2 universities, so his kids are in college, full ride. Okay, they don't have to pay anything. I mean, just intelligent people. Homeschooled. So I asked Steve, how did you manage? You are a missionary. How did you manage to homeschool your kids? He looked at me and smiled and says, I did not. I said, then who did it? Your wife? Your ex-wife? He said, no, my ex-wife cannot teach my kids also. I said, so how did you homeschool your kids? He said, my mom. I said, what do you mean? He said, my mom is a public school teacher. So because she's retired, now she spent her energy and wisdom teaching my kids. That's why, for example, those of you who wants to be married and you're planning to homeschool your kids, you better marry somebody with brains. Yeah. Are you listening to me? You better marry somebody with brains. Why? Because wall decorations are only good for one thing. Wall decoration. That's it. You want to homeschool your kids, marry somebody with brains. Those who can coach, those who can teach. Otherwise, homeschooling will not work because you cannot bless others when you don't have it. I train pastors even to this day. Why? I'm a pastor. I can teach the Bible. I can teach exegesis. That's what I am. Oh, but as far as business is concerned, you go talk to my wife. So she's my business manager. Yeah, I don't even know how much money I have. She just spent it all, you know. But I'm not a business person. I know how to handle the business of God's work, but I know how to pioneer churches. I know how to come up with curriculum. There's a lot of things I know, but I am not a businessman. You know, I remember when we were exploring buying a property in the Philippines, one of the things that my wife said to me is, make sure that Kuya Amit is with us. I don't know land in the Philippines. Now, if he doesn't know land in the Philippines, what business do I have bringing him along with me? Yeah, that's why when we were interviewing somebody somewhere there, he was asking all the questions. I was just listening, pretending I know what's going on. But I don't know what's going on. But if he doesn't know it, how can he help me? Okay, now listen to this. Let's put it a notch higher. How can you teach your kids morality if you are an immoral person? You cannot bless others with what you don't have. The greater blesses the lesser. Wives, if you do not know how to submit to your husbands, how can you teach your daughters to submit to their husbands? You're very quiet now. I know it's getting cold, but move your eyelashes, okay? Okay. You husbands, how can you teach your sons to love their wives if you're not loving to your wife? That's why what happened is the authorities loses their authority, and you can no longer bless them. You know, my father is just a sixth grader, and he just surrendered. He knows hard work, and I have never seen a man that worked harder than my father, but he knows his limits. When I was about to fly for the U.S. for my study, he was with me in the airport, and he looked at me and he said, well, Jose, I know you have certain things that you need to tell me, but you won't tell me, and I won't tell him. Look at me and says, look, this is it. He said, by the way, that was the last time we talked. He said, this is it. He said, I have nothing for you anymore. I have sent you to school. He said, I have nothing. He said, he told me this, you will have no inheritance because he has nothing. He said, the best thing I gave you, he said, is your education. Now, he's a very brave man, so he told me this. When you go to the U.S., do not bow your heads in front of anybody. Do not beg. He said, work hard. And he said, you will make it. Why did he tell me that? I have seen him do it. Through hard work, sweat, and tears, we survive. I saw it from my father. Therefore, if my father is alive and he tells me work hard, yes, sir. He's a hard worker. What if your dad is lazy? You know, the only exercise that he knows is how to use his thumb with a remote control on television. And then he tells you work hard. You're going to look at your dad and despise your dad. Because he is trying to teach you something that he has no idea what it is. Okay? Those kind of blessings are caught more than taught. You catch it. You catch it. Have you noticed, you be around successful people, they have their own language. You begin to talk like them. You know, Joseph called me one day and says, hey, Papa, our colonel asked me to play golf with him. And I told him, no, because, you know, I raised my boy and he wants to be like me to a certain degree. He works hard, you know, and he likes to work with his hand like I do. And so he told me, You know me, Papa. I'm just like you. I don't like golf because I don't like golf. Okay. And I talked to him and says, don't be a fool like me. And he said, what do you mean, Papa? I said, you go play golf. And said, why? I said, those kernels are your contacts. If they play golf, you play golf. And I told him, you know why I don't play golf? I said, I don't have the money to play golf. I said, I did not grow up with the ability to finance that. But I said, now you have a chance. By the way, when they're growing up also, I told them, you learn ballroom dancing. Because in special functions, you do ballroom dancing. I don't even know the first step of a dance. Okay? Remember in our wedding, there is a wedding dance. That was the most problematic time of my life. So my wife came, she knows how to dance. And I don't know what to do from left to right, you know. And one of my classmates noticed that, and so, you know, the time somebody takes over the dance, she came forward on the dance hall and told the girl that I was dancing with, let me have Jose for a while, okay? And then she looked at me and says, you don't know a thing about dancing, do you? And I said, no, I don't. This is embarrassing. And she said, let me teach you 2 steps, okay? You will survive this afternoon. And so right there, that was my last dance. Yeah. That's it. When will I dance on earth again? Never. But I told my boys, because in school they have ballroom dancing, and they told me, we don't dance also. I said, no. I said, you learn ballroom dancing, okay? You learn that. I said, because in special functions, ballroom dancing is very important. Can you imagine you're going to be attending functions with state dignitaries and you don't know how to do ballroom dancing? What are you going to do? Sit down, everybody's standing up and you're sitting down? Bring your book or newspaper and read? That will be very embarrassing. Conversations are held in those dances. You know why there is a lost art of courtship in America? Because they don't do ballroom dancing anymore. Yeah. There's a study by a Harvard graduate. She wrote a book. I forgot. I saw her in the interview. And she said, we've got to bring back ballroom dancing in the Ivy League. Because they said, in ballroom dancing, you talk. How do I know that you talk in ballroom dancing? She said so. I don't know how to do ballroom dancing. But I'm just quoting her. You see, you cannot pass on what you don't have. And the greater always blesses the lesser. Okay? My boy, Joel, was very problematic growing up because he sees his siblings progressing. And he told me this so many times. He will be very sad. You know how sometimes he will have a pouty face. And he said, Papa, I don't have any money. I mean, this little boy was, what, are you going to get married or something? You know? I said, Papa, I don't have many money. He said, Kuya has money. He said, even Sanko has money. He said, I have no money. I said, what's your problem? You have money. And he said, I really don't have money. I said, Joel, you have me. And I said, my money is your money. And he said, really? Good, he did not take it literally, you know. But, but I told my boy, for as long as I have money, you have money. Now, I cannot tell that to Joel if I don't have any money. Yeah? That's why we have to raise our kids properly. Now, look at this. Genesis 14, verse 21. Then the king of Sodom said to Abram, because this is after Melchizedek blessed Abram. By the way, do you guys know what is the greatest blessing that Melchizedek gave to Abram? Because you don't just say, I bless you. Blessing in the Bible is substantial, okay? It's something that you know was passed on to you. What is the blessing that Melchizedek gave Abram? He did not write anything. What is the blessing? What? Kingship is one. What's the other one? The priesthood. You're going to say that, but you didn't say that. Yeah. The priesthood. The priesthood of Jesus and the believers was not taken from Levi. It was taken from Melchizedek. Because the high priest belonged to Levi. Jesus is the high priest of our salvation, not from Levi, but from the order of Melchizedek. So Melchizedek blessed Abraham with two anointings, the kingly anointing and the priestly anointing. Nobody else on earth can bless Abraham with that. The only person with that blessing is Melchizedek. Then the king of Sodom, 14:21, then the king of Sodom said to Abraham, give me the people, but take the possessions for yourself. But Abraham said to the king of Sodom, I have raised my hand in an oath to the Lord, God Most High, creator of heaven and earth, that I will not take a thread or sandal strap or anything that belongs to you, so you can never say, listen to what Abraham said to the king of Sodom, so you can never say, I made Abraham rich. I will take nothing except what the servants have eaten. But as for the share of the men who came with me, Aner, Eshcol, and Mamre, they can take their share. Now, after the meeting, the now freed king of Sodom offered Abraham the spoils of war. He refused to take it. Now, technically, that belongs to him. But if for example, she is captured and some property were taken from her, and I said, I will deliver her. To complete the deliverance, I have to give her back what was taken from her. But it's mine, because in the ancient times, if I defeat you, everything that you have is mine. At this point, how many children does Abraham have? None, right? None. He just possessed, listen to this, 9 nations. He is now, by virtue of winning the war, he is now an owner of 9 nations. How many children does Abraham have? None. How can he possess it? He cannot possess it. The other thing is this. Remember what I told you earlier? Prior to this, the surrounding nations were aware on how super wealthy Abraham was. He doesn't know how powerful he is militarily. He is basically what you will call as a feudal lord. Okay? He's got this private army. He's got this private wealth. I mean, he's very rich. That's what the Bible says. But all they know is he's a businessman and he's rich. But now, after he delivered Lot and conquered the kings and now possessed 9 kingdoms, whoa, they know how powerful militarily Abraham was. Remember the 318 soldiers that he has in fighting these kings? He lost none. Now this is not fairy tales, but he lost none because God is with him. Can you imagine how unfair it is? You have thousands of soldiers that you're fighting, and they lost thousands of people, and you lost none. And so now the kings around him look at that and say, boy, we've got ourselves some problem here. You know, not only is this man wealthy, this man has special forces behind him. Now they are afraid of him. Now, why do snakes attack people? Because they are afraid. Okay? Because you're bigger than the snake. You know, so those who study snakes, the reason why they attack is because they're very afraid. So now you have all these kings around you who knows you are more wealthy than any of them. But now they know that you are super powerful militarily. They will fear you. If they fear you, what will they do? They'll kill you. Was Abraham ready for that? No, you pick the wars that you fight. You see? And so Abraham said, no, I will not take anything. Why? He's already super wealthy. What does he need it for? Plus, by virtue of his victory, he owns all of them already. He can effectively call for that in the future. But he has nobody. Why? Because God has not given him a child yet. Okay? So he said, no. The other thing is this. If he said, okay, I'll take the spoils, then the people say, well, he becomes very wealthy. They'll try to steal from him. He put himself in danger. What happened when you put yourself in danger? Then the promise of God in your life can no longer be fulfilled. You know what's bad about cemeteries? Not because people there are dead. Of course they are dead. But if you look at the cemeteries, you will find old people, you will find children. But if you look closer, one of the best tour that you can do in Chicago is the tour of the cemeteries. Because if you look at the tour of the cemeteries in Chicago, you will find famous names. What you will find in the cemeteries are these: children who could have been the next senator, never did. Inventors who died at the age of 40. Warriors who died young. Athletes who died young. That's the problem with cemetery. Untapped potentials. If Abraham will, now I don't care how promising you are, okay? It doesn't matter how promising you are. You get a family who is wealthy, powerful, influential. It doesn't matter. You get sick and you die. Useless. That's why part of our stewardship of life is a stewardship of our health. You don't eat anything, you don't eat everything that looks like food. Okay? Some of this food will kill you. Now, can you imagine you are making tons of money, and then you get sick? You know what the hospital will do if they found out you have money? They'll steal your money medically. You know, every time a doctor touches you, it didn't say I care. It say money, more money. Every touch is money. So don't say they care. No, it's money, more money. The more they touch you, the more money they suction from you. But you spend your time making them in hard work. So what happened then? You take care of your body, you will just lose that. You know, I have a professor at Regent, and this guy is a Christian, serves God all his life, and he was able to save over $2 million, and during the time it was a lot of money already. But then after he retired, they found out he's got cancer, and stage 4, and so he's gonna die. The hospital, knowing he has money and he's got good insurance, said, okay, we'll take care of you, sir. This is what we can do. By the way, after a couple of months, your insurance will run out. They will no longer cover this. So we'll put you on life support, and with your money, and they know how much money they have, with your money, we'll be able to take care of you and prolong your life for 2 years. That's what they said. For 2 years, you will extend your life. And now he's in a dilemma. So the doctor was, because he's still young, the doctor was asking him to sign the papers. He had not relinquished the medical authority to any of his family members. So he called the doctor and said, doctor, is really that much? Yeah, but you know, you can die a good death, and you'll be taken care of for at least 2 years, but you'll die. You know. And so now he told his family, look, I have served God all my life. I'm ready to go home. Oh, but Dad, we love you, because his kids are already professionals. Dad, we love you. We want to. Yeah, but look, I don't want to go to the hospital for the rest of my life. He said, I've served God all my life. I'm okay. I'm ready to go home. So he told his wife, pull the plug. And he asked for a lawyer and signed the authority for medical things to his wife and his children. Because his family loves him, says, no, we're not going to do that. We'll spend all your money. We're okay. We can extend you 2 more years. So now they called their pastor. The guy said to the pastor, pull the plug, pastor. And the pastor says, no. I pulled the plug, I will lose your family, and I will not be able to minister to them. So they are in a dilemma right now. So they called my professor, Peter Prosser. because he's a good friend. He says, would you please come here? And I need some counsel. And he said, why do you want so bad to go home now? And he said this, look, Peter, he said, I have lived my life serving God. You know, I have saved money for my family. He said, now this cancer is going to steal it from me. I'm going to be dead anyways. He said, look, I'm at peace. All my kids are okay. I'm ready to go home. But I will not allow the devil to steal what I have saved for them. So now Peter Prosser was in a dilemma. So he came up with an idea. He said, he called the doctor and the family says, we'll all pull the plug together. Now he did not die right away, of course. He still survived a couple of months, but he was very happy. But look at this, the decision-making process that he made. He said, I have worked all my life, saved, so that my kids will have better start. I'm not going to let anybody steal that from them. You know, he said, I've already lived my life. Abraham cannot afford to pick a fight at this point. Now, later on he will. But he could not afford to pick a fight. Why? Because he's got family. You know, irresponsible family members are those who does something they cannot afford. Can you imagine a child? You know your parents are working so hard and you become a drug addict. How irresponsible. And just no love. You know, you see your parents working so hard and you won't even do the dishes. And all you do is give problem to your parents. And your parents keep saying, hey child, when are you going to be responsible? And you have the audacity to answer back when you have nothing. Yeah. That's the problem. That's why Abraham says, I'm 85 years old, I cannot pick this fight. I have no child yet. Well, even when Isaac was born, he still could not pick a fight. Why? Because he was already over 100 years old, and Isaac is young. It's all about protecting his family. You know, you can do it in a family level, in a church level, in a city level, in a national level. You know, for example, the Philippines right now, we cannot defend ourselves against China or anything else. Why? Because our biggest budget for decades is defense. How come we have nothing to defend ourselves with? It got corrupted. You know why it got corrupted? We have politicians who doesn't care. They don't think about the future. For as long as they get rich, they just don't care. These are bad politicians. Same thing in America. All they do is charge more taxes, and they do nothing. You see? And this is a problem. That's why you teach your kids industry. You teach your kids hard work. I mean, they are already old and they refuse to work. Don't feed them. Yeah. Don't feed them. My kids were fighting, Joseph and John. It was winter time. And so I told them, stop. You know how kids are when you tell them to stop, they think it's a license to continue. And I have very little patience for this nonsense. And they wouldn't stop. So I told James and John, take your shirts off. Yeah, Joseph and John. Not James and John. James will be demolished. So I said, take your shirts off. And Joseph and John were wondering. I said, well, you want to fight? Take your shirts off. And you know, in the house, when I say take your shirts off, shirts are off. You know. So they took their shirts off. I said, take your pants off. So they have no more pants, just brief, you know. No, I'm not asking for wrestling here. But I said, now hit each other. Yeah, I told them that. Hit each other. I said, I want to see blood. I said, you want to fight so bad? Hit each other. I said, if you hold on your punches, I'll punch you. I said, hit hard. I said, I want to see blood. No, by this time they were both nervous. I said, if you think I'm kidding, look at my eyes. And they look at my eyes. Oh, you're not kidding. I said, hit each other. I said, I want to see blood. You want to fight so hard? I'm telling you guys to stop fighting. And you want to stop fighting? I want you to hit each other. I want to see blood. Now they're just frozen. I said, you want to disobey? Get out of this house. That's in the middle of winter. I said, when you get out of this house, take up your brief too. I said, that belongs to me. Yeah. And by the way, I'm a pastor. And they were in the door. And look at the transformation. Suddenly, they are no longer barking at each other. And Joseph said this, Papa, John is weaker than me. Just let me be the one to go out. John will not survive. Well, this is Joseph, a little boy. He said, John will never make it, Papa. Now, John saw that. And John says, no, Kuya. Let me do it. Now they love each other. Yeah. That's how it was settled. Because a lot of these people are just clanging cymbals. They're all noise. You know how parents become like toothless tigers? I'll throw you out. But you don't do that. You're useless. You're a toothless tiger. Don't say anything you don't mean, or you will not be taken seriously by your kids. Ask my kids how I do it. Yeah. I don't do that. My wife, I was in missions one time, and my wife was calling me overseas, saying, sweetheart, Joseph and, John and DJ will not listen to me. I said, why are you calling me? I'm on missions. You talk to them. I said, no. I said, you are there, I'm here. I show you how to do it. I said, you take care of it. But no, just talk to them. I said, no, I won't. I'm not there. Well, she took care of business, and they listened to her. The problem is when you become a toothless tiger. Yeah. Remember Tony Evans? His brother, very famous preacher, still alive. His brother became a teenager and turned 18. And he went home one day, and it is also winter, and his dad told him, hey, listen, good you came home. Do the chores, because it's winter time. We need some of this stuff. And because he's a teenager now, he looked at his dad and says, Dad, you can't tell me what I should do. I'm 18 years old. And his dad looked at him. Oh, really? Yeah. I learned it in school. You cannot tell me what to do now. The dad says, okay. Son, let's eat. So they ate. They were eating dinner. And said, son, by the way, eat well. And they were wondering why. He said, because this is your last meal here. And he said, after you eat this meal, I want you to leave this house. I'm allowing you to bring 2 jackets because I love you. But only 2. All of your jackets are mine. So only bring 2 jackets. When you leave, don't ask for money from me. Because you said I cannot tell you anything anymore. Go ahead. Go to your friends, let them feed you, let them give you work. Well, this 18-year-old kid is so proud. He took 2 jackets. Ang kapal talaga, kumuha pa ng 2 jacket. Diba? I mean, he took 2 jackets and left. Yeah, a few hours later, he was back. Why? None of his friends wants to take him in. You know, you teenagers, you will have friends outside your house who are all braggarts and hot air. They'll tell you, disobey your parents, do this. Don't listen to those devils. They don't even know how to feed themselves. Okay? You need to be loyal to your family, to your parents. I mean, some kids leave the house and they have their parents pay for their house rent. I don't know what kind of garbage is that. Don't allow that to happen. We have to learn how to let them make mistakes while you can still correct them. Okay, because if my kids, whenever my kids make a mistake, I allow them. And my wife, tells them, that is a bad decision, sweetheart. Why do you allow that person to make that bad decision? I said, to let him suffer. I remember DJ made one wrong decision one time, and she came to me crying. And I said, DJ, I love you still, and the way I look at you is the same. I'm still your father, but you will suffer. You made the wrong decision, you will suffer for it. I will not absolve you from it. I will not help you out of it. I said, you will suffer. Yeah, because she is young. I can still help her. I can still support her. But what if I'm 90 years old? I could not even climb up the stairs. You think I can help my kids? No, I need their help. Abraham knows that. Okay. And remember what the Bible says? When he left Haran, he took everything. He took his slaves, he took his silver, he took his gold, he took his wealth. He left nothing. Don't leave your wealth to irresponsible people. Because if he leaves it in Haran, it will be left to irresponsible people. No, they will just waste it. They will just waste it. And we know a lot of stories like that already. So, this is the mentality also of Abraham. God is the only one who can say, God made me rich. That is a statement of faith. There comes a point, you have to have a belief, a value within you that knows where it is coming from. And Abraham chose the life of faith. He chose the path of faith. And so he said, I will not let anybody say that Abraham made me rich. Believe me when I say this. The moment you start accomplishing something, the lazy ones will try to take the credit for it. Yeah. The responsible ones. Remember what Obama said? He was trying to raise taxes. And Obama said, the wealth that you have doesn't belong to you. You didn't make it. Boy, it upset the billionaires and the millionaires in the U.S. Because Obama was not around when they were making the money. And how dare he say, you did not make that, you did not, because he said the infrastructure, the roads and all of these things, the government built it. No, the government didn't build it. It was built by responsible politicians in the past. That's why in the past, our politicians, being a politician is not a full-time job. It's a part-time job. These are businessmen who gather together twice a year and discuss how they can legislate laws so that their business will be better. And so they put in money to make this infrastructure. Okay? Now it's a source of corruption. But when he said, you did not make that wealth, remember that New York congressman? Because they want to get rid of the inheritance tax. And he said, no, we should raise the inheritance tax. I think he was trying to raise it to 55%. And that's a lot of money. You're already being taxed while you're alive. The moment you die, your kids will be receiving less than half of what you pass on to them. And so I saw the interview, and this winner guy was asked, but this wealth belongs to them. It was given by their parents. Congressman Winner said, no, it doesn't belong to them. But their parents made the money. Yeah, the parents made the money, but the parents are dead. So it doesn't belong to them. It belongs to the government. That is wrong. Whatever you accomplish, the moment you accomplish something, some parasites will come behind you and try to take the credit for it. Therefore, you have to learn how to protect it, by all means. I remember when we were starting this church, I had a meeting in one basement, and we have not started the church yet, we're just meeting. And then they left the church and they spread the news around. The church is started in our basement. No, the church is not started in our basement. But they left the church and they want to take the credit for it. Yeah. I remember when we bought this building, and because they said, I'm done after 2 years. But we bought the second building. And when they heard that we bought the second building, they said, oh, somebody rich must have given the money to buy the building. No. I sold the former building and made $500,000. Yeah. Now I'm a pastor, but I made money. I overpriced the building. You know how I overpriced the building? Another denomination was buying it who didn't do their due diligence. I dictated the price. The price was supposed to be around $400,000. I sold it at $900,000. Why they buy it? It's their problem, not mine. You know, I made the money. Yeah, that's how I bought this building. But there was no grand offering. You know, I'm not correct to say no grand offering. No big offering coming in. So when somebody says, well, we bought that, shut up. I don't know what you're talking about. You see, whatever you accomplish, some people will just try to go behind you and take the credit. That's what is bad in government. That's what's bad in other families. You know, so we have to learn how to give honor to whom it is due. And Abraham says, well, in my walk of faith, it is God behind me all along. So I will not allow anybody to say, I made Abraham rich. Remember this. When he delivered Lot, Abraham was already very wealthy. If you are already very wealthy, nobody can make you any more wealthy than that. You'll just continue to increase your wealth. Money begets money. You'll just continue to increase your wealth. But he understood this. This king of Sodom will say, I made Abraham rich. With what? With his own money. Because whatever the spoils of war is, that belongs to Abraham. This guy is trying to give to Abraham what belongs to him. It already belongs to him. I'm going to try to give it to you. Abraham says, no, I'm not going to take it. It's already his. It's already his. But he cannot possess it yet. Okay? There are some things you cannot possess yet unless you have somebody who will take over. Who will be your heir. Okay? Unless you have an heir, nobody will take over. That's why in the Bible, it is always extremely important that a man has an heir. Okay? So, let's go to Genesis chapter 15, starting on verse 1. After these events, the word of the Lord came to Abram in a vision. Do not be afraid, Abram. I am your shield. Your reward will be very great. Now, this is after he refused to get the spoils. But Abram said, Lord God, what can you give me since I'm childless? And the heir of my house is Eliezer of Damascus. Abram continued, look, you have given me no offspring, so slave born in my house will be my heir. Now the word of the Lord came to him, this one will not be your heir. Instead, one who comes, look at this, who will be your heir. These are biblical guidelines for who will be your heir, okay? The Bible even talks about that. Who will be your heir? Look at this. This one will not be your heir. Instead, the one who comes from your own body will be your heir. That's the biblical pattern. Who should be your heir? Your own child. Okay? Your own child. The one who comes from your own body. He took him outside and said, look at the sky and count the stars, if you are able to count them. Then he said to him, your offspring will be that numerous. Abram believed the Lord, and he credited to him as righteousness. He also said to him, I am the Lord who brought you from the Ur of the Chaldeans to give you the land to possess. Verse 1, after these events. So it connects this episode to the previous one that we have been discussing. First, God told Abraham, do not be afraid. Why is it that God told Abraham, do not be afraid? Simple, he was afraid. Okay, it's useless to tell somebody, do not be afraid if they're not afraid. Okay, they laugh at you. Abraham was afraid. Why? Because now the nations around him knew not only was he wealthy, he was powerful. There is now a bullseye target on his back. everybody will be gunning for his life. Because you kill Abraham, you get everything that he owns. So first, God told Abraham, do not be afraid, because the king of Sodom and all of these kings are now looking at him. We have to kill Abraham because he's rich and powerful. Now he has no heir. He's got a private army of 318 soldiers, but that's it. He's got cattle, he's got wealth, but the promised land is just a promised land. It was promised, but he has not possessed it yet. And by the way, the Bible says that Abraham even lived on the mountains. Okay? He did not live in the valley. Why is it Abraham did not live in the valley? The valley is where commerce and trade takes place, where the caravans of soldiers and kingdoms pass through. He's very wealthy. He cannot live in the valley. He has to live in the mountains. Why? Because if you live in the mountains, it's more difficult to attack somebody on the mountain. They have no vehicles in their place in those days. You have to. That's why even when Israel came from Egypt, they did not live in the valley. They live on the hills, the northern hills. They live there because it's still a weak nation. They have no defense. So it was only during the time of David that they came down to Jerusalem, because David raised a strong army and they were able to defeat the valley armies. But other than that, they live in the mountains. What is Abraham doing? He was protecting his life. He was protecting his family. And he was protecting his possession. He said, I am your shield. What is a shield? It's a defense. So after the major victory in the previous chapter, as we have been pointing out, Abraham became a marked man. He's too wealthy. He's too powerful. He's capable of a lot of things that even the people around him didn't realize he was capable of. But now he's a marked man. And so, this is where faith in God becomes very important. Now, we can only protect ourselves so much. I was in a chapel at Regent. Pat Robertson ran for presidential nomination of the Republican Party, so he's got bodyguards. Pat Robertson's got big bodyguards. Some of them are ex-special forces. And whenever he speaks in our chapel outside, you'll see these men in black, fully armed, and they were around the vicinity. You cannot get to Pat Robertson, okay? But I remember in one of the chapters, he started laughing, his charismatic smile. And he said, he was quoting from Jeremiah, and he said, after I run for presidential aspirations, I have to hire bodyguards, he said. And he said, look at my bodyguards. So the bodyguards were just standing there like this, big men. And he said, all of them think they can protect me. Then he laughed and says, none of them can protect me. He said, none. He said, they are all trained, they are all capable. He said, they pay them money. But he said, none of them can protect me. And he said, I have decided that my protection comes from God. Do you know that it's very common? I don't know now because he's 90 years old or something. During my time there, it was very common. You'll be going to Farm Fresh. You'll see Pat Robertson shopping, buying tomatoes. No bodyguards. Yeah. He was forbidden to do that, but he said, God is my protection. I have to live my life. And so he'll go shopping, buy tomatoes or something like that in a produce store. He always believed, he said, God is my protection. We can do all the preparations. We can do all the hirings. But the best men with money were assassinated. There comes a point you have to look into your heart, who is my source and who is my real protection? The only real source of protection of all provisions and safety is God. And Abraham decided that will be his course of life. Remember the German super millionaire during the recession? He looked at his stock value and he lost something like in a span of 2 weeks, something like $150 million. The guy panicked. It's the end of the world for him. So he committed suicide, killed himself. So the investigators came in. If there's a foul play, they realized it was a real suicide. There was even a note. He was very upset with what is going on. Lost $150 million. So they have to collect all the papers. And the shock of everybody is this. While he was lamenting that he lost $150 million, after everything is settled, all obligations, they found out he still got a net worth of over $200 million. He committed suicide, and he's still filthy rich. Any of you here has $200 million? He committed suicide because he only has over $200 million left. Why? He doesn't see any hope anymore. Because his source of wealth is in business, is in the stock market. And because of the recession, he lost hope. He committed suicide. And so Abraham says, hey, listen, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to make God as the focus of my faith. I'll do my due diligence. I'm a good businessman, and Abraham was. I'm a good fighter, and he was. But he said, God is my protection, and God is my source. That's why Abraham was not a warmonger. He did not take advantage of people. He did not even show off his wealth. Therefore, God told him, Abraham, I am your shield. And God told him, your reward will be very great. It's not going to be because of war efforts. The best reason, I believe, is this. It could have put a big threat on Abraham's life and accomplishments. You know, a person's accomplishment can just be demolished overnight. One of the best basketball players that America had was a guy named Allen Iverson. Have no more money. Lost almost everything. Yeah. A lot of the millionaire athletes who signed good contracts before, remember that Super Bowl defense lineman of 1985, Chicago Bears? They were having their celebration. They were looking for the living ones. They found this defensive lineman, I think a right guard, under one of the bridges in Chicago, homeless. Was a millionaire, now homeless. So they took him under the bridge, put new coat on him, put him on television, because it's a celebration. Fed him well. After that, he's back homeless. A millionaire. Yeah. That's not how to handle money. That's why the raising of the kids is not just education. It's how to survive in life, how to put your faith in God. Listen, the world that we are living in right now, it's a tough world. The world will not give you any quarters. It'll kill you. Yeah. You know why I'm very protective of my kids, especially my daughter? Well, I raise her properly. Can you imagine after raising her properly for over 20 years? And some lousy guy will come in and try to seduce her and take advantage of her. I can't live with that. I can't live with that. You know, some parents say, your kids are 18, you're on your own. Not on me. I did not raise these kids, protect these kids, taught them how to be tough in life, and then be a pushover. No way. Just no way. Well, I can understand parents who just, you protect your kids when they're young, and then when they become 18 years old, you let them go, so that the world can take advantage of them. What kind of parenting is that? What kind of parenting is that? Not in my house. Because all of my kids are heirs not only of what we have, but of the anointing and the calling that we have. All of them will be teaching the scriptures. And they'll be serving God. I have to protect that. So that whatever blessing the Lord put on my family will continue. Now look at this church. We have to raise godly children, so that whatever blessing God has put in this church will continue. Huh? I told you there's one more building in my spirit. God allows me to buy that building, I'll buy that building. That church there opens up. We have been trying to contact them. I'll buy the building. But what if we raise ungodly children in this church? Remember Bishop Ray Lerena? He's in dilemma right now. Because he spent everything, and now the new board said to his daughter, if your dad died, we'll sell this big building that we have and distribute to the pastors. And the kids will have nothing. And so Bishop Ray Lerena told me, he said, I made a mistake. Now he's already old. I made a mistake, he said. I did not prepare for the future. So he's doing everything to make things right now. Now, our church has a great future. We have a great foundation. But we have to do due diligence. We put our faith in God, and we do the right thing. Amen? Are you hungry now? Did you learn something? Yes. Okay, let's all stand. Praise God.